Where is he?
Where are you? Skull Rock. Do you know it?
Hello, everyone. This is Stacy, reporting from the Skull Rock broadcast. I am joined by...
Hello, welcome back. This is Megan. This is our Stranger Things podcast, and we're so happy to have you listening, as always. Super excited, again, as always, to be recording today, to be talking to Stacy, and we're going to be continuing with our Lover's Lake deep dive of season 1. We're getting down to the end here, but before we get into the bathtub, how are you doing
today?
Into
that old bathtub. I'm good. A few more days left to school, and then summer. How about yourself?
Yeah, exactly. One more week. It is Sunday. Our last day is Friday. So we can make it. And by the time you listen to this, it will be either our last day of school or we'll be done. So that's super exciting. And we have a special announcement to celebrate our last day of school. So we will be announcing this today. So maybe you're hearing about it if you're listening to the podcast. Maybe you've already seen it on social media. But we are launching a couple things starting today. We are going to be launching a Patreon, which we're super excited about. We want to continue, again, like we said last week, to build this community. We will have a little bit more time over the summer to kind of dedicate towards it. So that will be a way for you to support us, but also for us to give back some exciting things. So we're going to go over a little bit about what that means. And the most exciting thing, I think, is that for our Patreon subscribers or supporters, patrons, whatever they're called, we are going to be having a giveaway. This giveaway will be running for the next 4 months.
Yep.
Up until our trip to Atlanta, because, like many of you know, we are going to be meeting Joe Keery and some of the other cast of Stranger Things. So we will have the opportunity to get a few things signed by Joe Keery, and we wanted to have one of you have the opportunity to own one of those autographs. We are going to give away a prize package, which will include a signed item by Joe Keery. The winner will get to choose between 3 things to get signed by him. And then some of the other tiers of the Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes. Actually, those will all be free on the Patreon. Some of the levels will allow you to access special lives from me and Stacy. We will have a Discord server that we're setting up. We will have merch. I have actually another thing I'm really excited about is sort of an Atlanta travel guide that have put together, which has all of the filming locations and the addresses and things like that, in case you are also going to Atlanta at some point or in October, so that you can have easy access to all that stuff. And our top tier, you will be able to sign up to be on a bonus episode with us. So I think that's the lowdown of the Patreon and the giveaway. And we will definitely be putting out more details on social media and letting you know as the giveaway progresses what we'll do for that. Because there will be some little side quests for Patreon supporters to get more bonus entries. So yeah, we're super excited about all of that. Yahoo! With that said, let's get into our episode today. So
let's get into the bathtub.
Just climb on in. The water's fine. We were talking about this episode just a tiny bit before we started recording, and we both think that it sort of like went by quickly. Like it seemed like a shorter episode, and I think it was just because it was so fast paced. So it was action packed, moving quickly. It's that rising action, I guess.
Yep.
Before
Going
the
up the
big
roller
climax.
coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts out, the scene at the beginning was so cute.
So cute.
Our sweet little babies. So Mike and Elle are in the bathroom down in his basement. He's kind of like, trying to help
Clean
her
her up.
out. Yeah, do some first aid.
I like that she kind of looks in the reflection and she doesn't have her wig. And he's like, you don't need it, Mike tells Elle. And she goes, still pretty. And he goes, still pretty. And they kind of start leaning in to give each other a kiss when Dustin bursts in and he says that Lucas is on the radio. He's trying to warn them about something, but he's going too fast and he's too far away. And it's not making much sense.
We had left Lucas seeing all of the vans at the lab and realizing, because he had seen the van at Mike's house as well, that the people from the lab were coming. So that's what he was kind of trying to warn them about.
Yes.
But they really couldn't hear him. And then finally he kind of gets through that the bad men are coming.
And it's very much like E.T., like you see all the vans starting to pull up. They need to get the F out of Dodge. So basically, I love that Mike runs upstairs. He sees that they're coming. Dustin's like, we got to go now. And he tells Karen, who's on the phone with Steve's mother, if anybody asks where I went, I left the country.
Yeah. Mike, I thought this was a really good episode for Mike. I thought there were lots of really fun Mike moments in this episode, including that. That's one of my favorite lines of his. But also, this is literally the only time that we ever have any sort of like semblance of presence from Steve's parents.
Yeah. It's that little voice on the other end of the phone.
Which, honestly, it could have been like a housekeeper or something.
Yeah, probably was. That poor bastard.
I know, poor guy.
But I do like that. And I kept thinking about how you told me that Finn never knew how to ride a bike. So they had to almost like CGI it. I'm like, they probably used the budget of Avatar to make it look like this kid could ride a bike. So I was a little distracted while they're biking away and they meet up with Lucas and a van gets in the way and Elle uses her powers and flips the van. And I guess they actually did it old school. This was actually a practical effect. The way they did it, mind you, it was CGI of it going over the kids, but the way they flipped it, they use hydrogen tanks. But I do love that it goes over them in slow motion. The boys finally get to see the extent of her powers. And I love that shot of Bremer just getting out of the van, almost looking proud as he sees 11 biking away with the boys.
Yeah, that like chase scene is epic. I love it so much. And I love how like they're just like cutting through the backyard and there's the kids doing like Miss Mary Mac.
Yep.
Like you said, the flipping the van is just like one of the most iconic scenes in the whole series, I think. Back at the junkyard, I really liked this part too because, well, first, Dustin's like, did you guys see that? And again, Mike Wheeler, no, Dustin, we missed it.
Such a good line.
And then it's like that was, and Lucas chimes in with awesome. And that's him like acknowledging that 11 is pretty badass. And he apologizes. Elle apologizes to Lucas as well for lying. And Mike apologizes. They all apologize. It's very heartwarming.
It is. It's nice. It shows that there's a reconnection. And I love that Mike and Lucas finally do the handshake and it cuts to the credits as soon as they shake hands and make amends.
Yeah. So great intro. Like maybe one of the best like intros, I think, in the season. We cut to Joyce and Hopper. They're going back to the police station. So
yes.
At the police station, they find Nancy and Jonathan there, which they knew that Jonathan had been brought in. Powell and Callahan are like, Hopper, you need to see something. So they show Hopper what they found in the back of Jonathan's car, which is the box of like monster hunting supplies.
Doesn't look good. A little incriminating.
Yeah. So Hopper brings the box in, is like, what's this? And Jonathan he is like, you wouldn't believe me, which I feel like that's like a common thing that comes up with like people telling each other, like, you're not going to believe me. Like Eddie at the beginning of season 4, like, you're not going to believe me. And the kids are like, well, try us.
Exactly.
Like, which is exactly what Hopper says. And then we cut to the Wheelers.
Yep.
Karen goes downstairs into the basement for the first time in the season, maybe.
Yeah, she finally goes downstairs, which I'm like, where the hell is the washer and dryer? And she goes down there, and I like that she finds, talk about incriminating, a piece of blonde hair that came from Eleven's wig. And next thing you know, the doorbell is going crazy, and Ted answers it, and who is it? It's that freaking bitch from the lab.
Yeah.
And all the lab people.
Brenner.
And they, next thing you know, they're looking through the house and taking stuff out. And Bremer sees downstairs in the laundry, so I think the washer was down there.
Right.
Sees the Benny's Burgers shirt in one of the laundry baskets.
Yeah.
So clearly shit.
Yeah. So first of all, Ted Wheeler cracked me up. I laughed out loud. Jiminy Christmas.
Such a good line.
Hold your horses.
Yeah, I'm going to say that for now on when the Amazon truck comes. Man.
I say hold your horses all the time. Like,
oh my God.
Also, I noticed that in season 4, when they go to Owen's house and they're like searching the house, that felt very like reminiscent,
very much like that
of this scene, because they've got like the paper boxes and they're like collecting things from all over the house. It's like, what could you be taking? Like, what is evidence all over the Wheeler's house? But like you said,
how Ted immediately is like, is she Russian? Because back in the 80s, that was the big fear. And the lady who shot Benny, she really isn't doing a great job with this hysterical mother who's like, you're telling me to stay calm? I don't know where my children are. They're involved. They hid this girl. And she's getting more and more worked up. And Bremer takes over because that man is a smooth talker. And he just immediately, takes a seat and he asks her and Ted to trust him. So almost immediately, like, you can tell he's maybe done this before. And he just takes over, almost like trying to be reassuring that whatever is happening, they need to trust him, which I'm like, fucking Bremer.
Yeah. Well, there's also another funny Ted line where he's like, our son with a girl?
Girl, yes. Unheard of.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of like nuance in Karen's like performance here, because she did just find that hair downstairs, but she's saying that there wasn't a girl here. So she's not really cooperating. She's kind of lying a little bit.
Protecting her kids,
Yeah, and which I respect. And she is like almost like overdoing it when she gets upset. And it's like, I was kind of like, again, me, broken record, how much does she already know? What is she kind of like trying to cover up here? And when Brenner sits down, you're going to get me like saying Bremer. When Brenner sits down, it's almost like she's a little too quick to just give in to him. So when I had watched this and taken notes like a year ago, I wrote, does he have mind control powers? Because it was almost like so quickly that he sedated her almost.
Yeah. And it's not even like he gave her a cup of coffee that had a Klonopin in it. Like, he just sat down and spoke a few words and she kind of simmered down a few degrees.
Right.
Odd.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I just felt like I said, there was a lot of like nuance in that scene that it's like, what's really going on here? Then we cut to the party. They're back at the junkyard. They're kind of trying to make a plan. Lucas has made like a diagram on the ground of like the lab and the fence and the road and everything. And this is an interesting connection to, Ted Wheeler asking if the girl is Russian, because Mike seems to know a lot about the military stuff that happens at the lab, which he said was like told to him by his father. Like,
exactly.
So it's like, it seems like Ted Wheeler knows that like the lab, the Hawkins Department of Energy or whatever, is government and that he thinks that they're making weapons there to fight the commies or whatever. When they say weapons, they all kind of look at Elle like,
yep.
oh shit, like, yeah, they're making weapons there. We can see that. And one of their weapons has escaped.
Yep.
They have to hide in the bus when they see like the helicopter flying over.
And we go on over to the police station, and the teens have kind of finished telling Hopper and Joyce everything. And in the hallway, Joyce is having a moment with Jonathan, and she's like, I can't believe you're going to do this on your own. You should have told me. You always act like you're so alone in this to fix this. I'm here. And it's a nice little tender moment because she's like, what if I had lost you as well? And just as they're starting to, kind of like hug and, he's apologizing, they hear Troy's mom, the bully, and she's very upset. And Callahan and Powell are doing kind of a shitty job to diffuse the situation. And Hopper walks out, and he's babbling Troy about, this girl with special powers. She broke my arm and this and that. And Hopper originally was like, I don't have time for this. Let's just make a statement. But as soon as he heard Troy say the girl with the shaved head with the special powers did this, he's like, wait a second, what? And, he goes, yeah, she broke my arm. And he's like, what kind of special powers? And he goes, well, powers to make you fly. And he's a little embarrassed, but his mom is like, tell him, honey, and make you piss yourself, which Callahan and Paul are barely holding it together. And, he right away, Hopper's like, well, where did you see this girl? And he's like, she always hangs out with those losers. So they realize who this girl is that Troy is talking about, and who she has been hanging out with, Will's friends, the boys.
Yeah. We just did the episode last week about like some of our favorite side characters and talked a lot about Powell and Callahan. Callahan just was cracking me up in this scene. Like, he's just so whiny and like gets so defensive.
Troy's mom going, I want your badge number and your name. I'm like, Jesus.
He's like, I'm an officer. She's like, deputy. I'm an officer.
I can't.
But he was just cracking me up. And we go to our fave.
Yep.
Steve Harrington is having a fight with, Tommy and Carol. Again, last week we talked about Tommy and Carol a lot too.
Which, did you notice? So they're at the outside of the mini mart, and Steve has seen some better days. He's busted up to hell. And Tommy comes out with a bottle of aspirin and a Coke and goes, you owe me $1.20. Yeah. And I'm like, damn.
Well, I mean, Steve is supposed to be like rich, so
holy shit. So what does Tommy and Carol do to kind of piss Steve off?
Well, they start like joking about like, did you see Jonathan's face, and like imitating when he was like pounding on Steve, and then he's like, that's probably what he looked like when he killed his brother. They're like talking about him killing Will, but then Carol says, I just imagined his face like when he's screwing Nancy. And that's what really kind of
too far. Yep.
Yeah, set Steve off, and he starts yelling at Carol, and then Tommy starts defending Carol, like, don't talk to her like that. And that's when Steve gets himself pressed up against the car. I mean, Steve seems to just always be pressed up against things by other men.
Notice that? There was a bit of tension there, yeah.
So Steve has told him that they're assholes. They never cared about Nancy. Tommy is basically like, do you want to fight me too? Like, you didn't do so great against Jonathan. And I mean, it does seem like, especially in this scene, like Tommy does seem pretty like scrappy and like strong.
Yeah.
And like he could probably take Steve. And like we've said, like Steve doesn't seem like much of a fighter.
No.
Like he's more a gentle soul.
I do love the line where he goes, it's because you two are miserable. Because I always love the saying, misery loves company. And instead of fighting Tommy, he does the right thing and he gets into his car and he speeds away. And Tommy is really angry, shouting after him, saying that, Nancy turned him into a pussy. And, go ahead, Harrington, do what you always do, run away, which made me think of Eddie. and he speeds away out of the parking lot, which I'm like, oh, so that's almost like the straw that broke the camel's back with that friendship.
Yeah. I like how Tommy's like, let me get the door for you, and like slams it on him. But then like Steve gets into the car, and then I think it's a great like scene of the car just like zooming out, like you can tell he's mad. And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't think Joe Keery got to do that stunt himself, right?
Very rarely they let the actors actually drive the cars. Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be great? Like, do you think Joe Keery, this is the question I have for Joe Keery if we ever get to talk to him. Like, do you ever actually get to drive the car, the RV? Like,
I mean, you heard my idea to Alexis. We didn't get to record this, but I said, wouldn't that be one hell of a, a meet and greet experience that Joe Keery has to drive an RV at Winnebago in circles in a parking lot. And the experience is he doesn't tip it over and kill you all. But she said that the insurance probably wouldn't cover it. So, yeah, that idea got shot down very quickly.
We definitely should have kept recording for the end of our conversation with Alexis. Yeah, but I really wanted them for Epicons to get that RV as like a prop outside. So we'll see. I told her that if it's there in October, you can thank me.
Exactly. Manifest.
Hopper, Joyce, Jonathan, and Nancy, which they've sort of teamed up. They're up on like a lookout point looking at Nancy's house from afar with the binoculars, and they see like the people from the lab. Nancy's all distressed, like she wants to go home and make sure her parents are okay, and Hopper's telling her she can't. They are trying to figure out how to like get in touch with the boys and Elle. And Jonathan remembers about Will's walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
So they head back to the buyer's house and they find the walkie-talkie. They try to contact the boys. Nancy's reaction when she walks into the buyer's house
that cracked me up.
Yeah. I think that was accurate though. Like if she had just like walked in and not reacted, we would have all been like, Nancy, like you haven't seen this yet.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it was good that they like, made her react like that.
And I like that before they get the walkie, they were like, do you know any place where he would be? And she's like, we haven't talked for a while, because they're at that age gap where that would make sense. You wouldn't be close with your sibling. So it kind of shows that she kind of almost feels a little bad that they haven't really talked or anything in a while, because she can't come up with one single thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, of course, we love the Star Wars references.
I thought of you instantly.
We have Nancy calling on the walkie, and Dustin is like the bad men could have gotten to Nancy, and it could be like a Lando Calrissian moment where like, Darth Vader got there first to Cloud City.
I can't.
And Lando takes them in, but then you realize that
surprise. Yep.
So they're like, it might be a trap. They decide whether to answer. Hopper ends up getting on the walkie as well.
Yeah.
They're almost about to give up because they're not answering. And then Mike comes through like, yeah, I copy. And then we cut to, just for a moment, our sweet boy.
What a redeeming moment this is. So it shows Steve, and he walks up to the Hawk Theater, and it looks like the manager, like the owner, is up on a ladder with one of the, employees holding it for him, and he's trying to scrub off the spray paint. And Steve asks, all busted up, if he can help. And the manager goes like, did you have anything to do with this? And he's like, I just want to help. And I love that they switch places, and he goes up the ladder to, and when it's right to scrub it off. And as someone who hates heights, I'm like, you go, Steve. This is your first step in redemption, cleaning off the mess that Tommy left. Good for you.
So we're back at the Wheelers.
Yes.
And they're kind of watching the people from the lab leave, and they have like a little conversation here where Ted is like, we have to trust them. This is our government. Karen says that Brenner gives her the creeps, which justified.
Yeah.
And then they're wondering about like whether Nancy is also involved.
Yes.
And Ted is like, again, like, Nancy with Mike? Like,
How
no
ridiculous.
way.
Yeah.
But then this was really funny too. So we're back in the bus and they're still stressing about whether or not it was a Lando thing.
Yeah.
So they're like, did Nancy give us away? Dustin's like pacing. Lucas is yelling at him. But I thought it was funny because Lucas says that like Nancy might set them up, but Hopper wouldn't. And again, Mike is like he's like indignant. He's
Damn.
like, why are you talking about my sister like that? But it was just like a subtle little moment of that. Okay, but then this scene was really good too.
This gave me Indiana Jones vibes.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Mhm.
So the bad men do show up and they're all kind of closing in on the bus. We even see a guy open the door to the bus. Then you cut to the inside where the boys are watching. You hear like some signs of a scuffle.
Yep.
And then instead of the bad man walking onto the bus, it's Hopper.
It's Hopper. He took care of 3 men with guns like it was nothing. Love it.
Yeah, he took them all out. He's there to save the day. He's like, what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Yep.
Total Indiana Jones moment.
We go to Joyce's and it's a little after dark and they're waiting. She's with Jonathan and Nancy. They're really eager and nervous. They hear Hopper pull up. They run out and I love Nancy's reaction when she first lays eyes on 11. She goes, is that my dress? So I did love that.
But she's also like, Mike, I was so worried about you, and hugs him. And he's kind of like,
yeah, where the hell is this coming from?
Me too.
Yeah.
It was cute though. Like, again, like, I feel like I relate to Nancy as that older sister. Like, I would have been worried about my little brother and he would have been like, okay, what are you doing here? Like,
fine, you weirdo. Yeah.
So then they kind of all come together. So it's like one of those moments where the whole party, like everybody, they've all been kind of like separate throughout the season and we get them all together for the first time. And they're sitting around the table. Mike is kind of like, he's drawn the acrobat and the flea.
Yep, breaking it down.
We get that they've like explained everything that they know. And then I liked how Hopper starts asking some questions about the gate, like, is it underground, near a big water tank? And I think it's Dustin is like, how do you know? And Hopper just kind of like looks at them. And I like, again, Mike is like, he's seen it.
Yep.
Like, he realizes that Hopper has been there. They ask Elle to try to find Barb and Will while she's sitting there at the table. And they give her like a blindfold. They turn on the walkie for static, but she can't find him.
And I like how Mike kind of almost breaks it down. He's like, she uses up her energy. And with flipping the van, her battery's drained. And Joyce is like, well, how long does it take? And he's like, it could be a while. It takes a while, And I like that Elle's upset almost with herself that she can't do this. She's crying a little bit. She goes into the bathroom to wash her face. And when she looks into the reflection of the mirror, she sees the bathtub and it gives her an idea.
Yeah. Also, I felt the connection here where later in the season, like at the very end, you get Will looking at himself in this mirror.
Yes.
And there's like an important thing that happens.
Yep.
But like, I feel like there was a connection between like there's going to be a connection, I think, between Will and Elle.
Yeah.
And I just felt like with her looking in the mirror and then you get him looking in that same mirror later, like that connection was kind of evident. But yeah, she realizes that she can use the bath to help her. So they need some more information about that.
We cut to Mr. Clark is having like kind of a date night and they're watching John Carpenter's The Thing. And I love that he's kind of like telling her how they did the special effects. And the phone rings and it's Dustin and he has some questions about sensory deprivation tags. And he's like, why don't we talk about this on Monday? And right away, Dustin is like, why are you keeping my curiosity door locked, like,
Right.
so yet again, we've discussed this, like either they looked him up in the phone book or they literally had his number, this poor man, but he stays on the phone and kind of explains what they would need, which is 1,500 pounds of salt.
Exactly. I don't know why I noticed this random thing, but like the light fixture in the buyer's house looks a lot like the light fixture in like Max's trailer in season 4.
Okay.
So it's just like when they're all like standing under the light fixture, making a plan at the table.
Mhm.
Like I feel like again that scene in season 4 was very reminiscent of this whole kind of scene in season 1. But was that the remake of the thing or the original?
That was the remake, the 1981 version.
Okay. I was wondering. I liked how he said it was like melted plastic and bubble gum. They go to the middle school because they realize that's the only place where, well, that's one of the places they're going to be able to find this much salt.
Yeah.
And they start like piling the de-icing salt. So the salt that they would put down if you don't live in a cold place. That would be the salt that they would put down to like keep the ground from freezing when it's snowing or cold.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan's like, what if it snows next week?
I love that. And Hopper being like, well, I guess there'd be no school. Like,
worst case scenario.
Yeah. I do love the shot of the boys trying to set up the kiddie pool. Dustin is like me with anything. That's live footage of me trying to set up my Christmas tree. Just lots of swearing and things just falling down. But I do love that the boys are kind of in charge of doing that in the gymnasium after hours. Hopper and Jonathan are doing the salt. And you see Mike is with Nancy and they're getting hoses from the supply shed. And he's a little taken aback because she uses a rock to break in. Like she's not being her like prissy little self. And during that, moment, kind of, she's like, I know we haven't talked in a while. No more secrets. Like, what was Elle eating this whole time that she was down there? And I do love that she's like, so do you like Elle now? And he's like, do you like Jonathan? And they're both like, kind of like, hit it on the nose a little bit.
I know. It's like he starts to realize, oh, like my sister is a little bit of a badass when she breaks that lock. But I like how she's like, we're not going to have any secrets. And then immediately they like both lie to each other.
Yeah.
So that's brother, sister.
Siblings. Yeah.
This next scene is just so tender, where Joyce is kind of like covering the goggles for Elle to help her keep it dark. And they just have a sweet little moment where Joyce is telling her how brave she is and thanking her for her help with everything and telling her that if it gets too scary that they can stop, and just like, being just so kind and motherly to her.
Which clearly Elle is not used to. So very, very sweet.
Yeah. And they get the temperature and the salinity perfect. In the pool.
Yep.
And Elle gets in. So I liked how when she's getting ready to get in, she had to give Mike his watch back.
Yep. Takes her little socks off. And I love the shot of her in that pink dress and it billowing with the water and her wearing the goggles. Just such a epic shot. And they use the walkie as white noise and you see her floating and she then ends up in the void. So she's looking and she eventually finds what is left of Barb, and there's like an upside down fucking slug going through her corpse's mouth. And right away, Nancy is like, do you see Barb? Have you found her? And 11 says gone. And you just see the look on Nancy's face. And she starts like panicking Elle because she did just see a dead body. And she starts screaming, gone, gone, gone. And Joyce, like the soothing mother that she is, starts talking to her, being like, it's okay, don't be afraid, we're right here, I'm right here, and kind of soothes her to calm down to continue looking for Will.
Right. And then she does find Castle Byers. So she finds Will in Castle Byers. He's definitely seen better days.
Which I have a question. What has he been drinking or eating?
Nothing, I guess.
Because if you think with the lake in part 4, season 4, there's no water. So I'm like, oh my God, this poor kid. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's barely hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
So she tells him that his mom is coming. He says, hurry. And just again, what we've seen kind of like official stuff about season 5 from the Duffer Brothers. We're going to get a callback to this scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've even seen Noah, like grown-up version of Noah, like laying down in this exact like spot where Will is like laying. Elle sits up and Joyce is again comforting her. Then they all start to kind of like split up again for their tasks, because they know now that Will is in Castle Byers. So Joyce and Hopper need to get to the gate so that they can go try to find him.
And I like how originally, like, Hopper's like, Joyce, you're not coming with me. And she is like a bulldog. She's like, he's my son, Hopper. And he doesn't try to argue with her, which I love.
Right. Joyce insists, and Hopper doesn't argue too much. He's like, all right, come on then. Then I really love this shot of Jonathan and Nancy like sitting in front of like the big tiger mural. Actually, there was a lot of like really good shots in the gym too. Just really good like cinematography all around at the end of this episode. But Jonathan sits down with Nancy and she says like, we need to kill this monster. It's just going to get Joyce and Hopper too. We need to finish what we started. So they end up leaving as well and going back to the police station to get their stuff. Yeah. Because their original plan was to set a trap for the monster. So they want to go through with that. They go to the lab and Hopper cuts through the fence again. And Joyce is like, this is what your plan is? He was like, it worked for me last time. And she's like, did it?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
And so they do get caught.
The lights all come on and they get surrounded, and Hopper tells her, let me do the talking. And we go back to the police station at night. And literally, whoever this police officer is, he has the worst hearing in the world, because Jonathan and Nancy sneak into Hopper's office. They aren't exactly quiet, getting their box of supplies with the bear trap and the gasoline, and they sneak back out.
Yeah, I liked how he was listening to the radio and it was like talking about the commies and the Russians and the war.
Fitting.
Yeah. But then this ending scene was also really intense. So we're back with Will in the Upside Down, and he's singing to himself, Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash, which pretty sure, again, that this is how season 5 is going to open.
Yeah.
Because we've seen like the released like script of like the very first scene of the show, and it says we cut to like a boy, a child voice, singing a familiar song. Yeah. So he's singing, which again, we've also made that connection of, is that kind of like his Vecna song? Is that what kept him alive? Was him continuously like singing over and over, and then something sort of blows through the wall of Castle Byers, and that's how it ends. And I really liked how at the credits it was like quiet. There was no music.
Yeah, which was just like so much unsettling. There is, Megan, there is a movie called Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It was a 1950s movie. But in most 1950s movies, it had to end somewhat happy. Well, they remade it brilliantly in 1978 with John O'Sullivan, Jeff Goldblum. It had a packed cast. Ignore all the other shitty remakes that came afterwards. But it ends with such a gut punch that at the end credits, it's complete silence.
Yeah.
So it made me think of that, which I feel when movies or television end with complete silence, it's 10 times more unsettling.
And it was like silence, but then you started hearing like sort of like upside down noises.
Yeah. But great episode.
Yeah. And I mean, like we said, I feel like we got through that pretty quickly because it was just so fast paced. There wasn't really a lot to like dig into. It was pretty straightforward, action packed, but definitely one of my favorite episodes, I think. Yeah. I mean, we say that every time.
5 stars. Yeah.
10 out of 10
across the board.
Yeah. Any other like big like connections that you noticed or anything like that?
Nothing much. I feel like so the next episode that we're going to be doing is the Upside Down. And I feel like that's when everything starts coming together. But the bathtub really set things up. And I especially liked seeing Elle in her makeshift sensory deprivation tank and her using her powers. So really, really great episode.
Let's get into a little bit of filming updates.
What's been going
So,
on?
We have a disclaimer here because everything that we're going to talk about today has not been officially shared. So definitely potential spoilers if you want to kind of like skip ahead a little bit if you're trying to avoid spoilers. But this has kind of been everywhere. So I feel like it's kind of hard to ignore. But the first thing was that we've seen a couple different sets that they've been filming at. So one of the sets is a church, and it looks like the church has like upside down vines on it. So it's very interesting. Like, what are we going to be doing in this church, like in the upside down? Like when we see those vines, we like assume that it's an upside down set. So that could be interesting. But then the other big set that we've seen is the Creel house, and it looks beautiful.
Yep, looks
it's
great.
Like restored to its like 1950s glory, right? So that's what it looks like, right? But then we did see our first look at Jamie Campbell Bower playing Henry Creel. And he looked very dapper.
Yeah, dressed up in kind of a brown suit, wearing glasses and a hat.
Do you want to talk about the connection that you and, was it Jeanette, noticed?
So actually, it was Brandy that pointed it out to me.
Okay.
And she said it as soon as those photos dropped. And then our buddies over at the Star Court Study Hall, they posted about it. And I'm like, this is amazing that people are picking up on this.
Yeah.
So there's a shot of Jamie Campbell Bower dressed up, and it's almost like he's leaning down, and we get our shot of, and what's the actress's name?
I think her name is Nell Fisher. So we had hinted at Holly Wheeler being recast, and we're pretty sure, absolutely not confirmed yet, but we're pretty sure that Nell Fisher is now going to be playing Holly.
Yeah.
So that's who is also in this scene that we saw leaked photos of in front of the Creel house with Jamie.
And she's standing there in a very bright 1980s outfit. And she's with Jamie, smiling, and she's holding like a shoebox, like what looks like a school project at one point. There's all different shots. But a lot of people are like, this is giving us Poltergeist 2 vibes, because there is that unforgettable, crazy scene of Reverend Kane leaning down to Carol Ann, and it just really gave strong Poltergeist 2 vibes. And we know how many Poltergeist references there are with the show in that movie. So that's immediately what we thought. And a lot of people were like, all right, well, what is this? Because there was an unofficial leak of episode titles, and one of them was The Vanishing of Blank Wheeler. So people are assuming it could be Holly Wheeler, and they're wondering, is this him doing mind control like he did with Nancy? Does he have her in a trance? Did he take her back in time? You know, does he have her in the upside down, but it's a different version of it? What is this? So definitely it has the theories going and the wheels spinning.
Yep. So I guess I have to watch Poltergeist 2 now. That's my new homework assignment.
Yep.
Will I be able to handle it? Am I going to be okay? Is it scarier?
It's a little scary. It's a little gross. It's not as good as part 1. I'll give you that. But it's a good time.
Okay. And then I did just see today that it looks like some more leaked photos have come out of the Creel house with Nell Fisher rehearsing a scene. But just from like the snippet that I looked at right before we started recording, it looked like her outfit could have been a little less 80s.
Ooh, okay.
So interesting. Maybe if she's rehearsing, she's not in costume, but who knows? Yeah. So yeah, some fun stuff going on for everybody to like speculate about this week. And hopefully we will get some more official updates from the Duffer Brothers soon, or Stranger Things, Netflix, whoever wants to share stuff with us.
Yeah.
What do you got for merch this week, Stacy?
So with merch, not too much, but a few interesting things. We did actually get an official name for the pink, white, purple Robin and Steve set that will be coming out. They're available on pre-order. They are called the Sherbert.
Sherbert Surprise.
And that was a must for all us fans. And
yep, pre-ordered. Check.
Pre-ordered. Cha-ching. So you could pre-order the Max Floating in the Cemetery and a few others, including Murray with the flamethrower. So yesterday when I was shopping, right away, I know your birthday's coming up, Miss Meghan, and I saw the tie-dye Stranger Things box, and I picked it up and I went, what the hell is this? But then I remember you mentioning how much you love doing tie-dye, and I went, well, happy birthday, Meghan. Throw it in the cart.
I was so excited. Where did you find that?
Walmart.
Wow.
Yep. I was there getting dog bones and looked over and I went, my God, because they have a little Netflix section. And so I was like, oh, well, nothing says summer more than tie-dye. So you'll have to let me know how that kit is.
Yeah. But, I thought we were doing it together.
We are. We're going to make a complete mess of Brandy's house. So get ready, guys. We'll actually probably do some live footage of it, of me getting kicked out of the house and having to sleep in my car. I can't wait.
Yeah. So no, I had said to Stacy that I want to get Skull Rock broadcast shirts that are like tie-dye. So I'm gonna leave this in so that I can actually manifest that happening. So Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, guys. This is gonna be our first try at it. We're gonna see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought that was really cool that they made those. And one of my favorite artists, Obligated Art, made a beautiful, beautiful piece of Steve Harrington as a knight, but used the colors on his armor. They were very Scoops Ahoy coated. So definitely those prints are up on her imprint shop. So definitely go and check them out. I'm going to buy the biggest freaking poster of that. So get ready, everyone.
Yeah, you loved that one. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I pre-ordered the Steve and the Robin, and then I was like, I'm going to regret it if I don't have these yellow Simpsons black light.
You got to do it,
dude. Robin.
You got to do it.
They still are available at Target, but like they're harder to find at this point. And they were on sale if you ordered it online.
Beautiful.
So I was like, yep, got to do it. So I did get my Eddie already. I have him.
Nice.
And I need to go pick up my Steve and Robin because I had to do it at 2 different Targets. So I feel like I've officially been bitten by this Funko bug.
By the pop bug, yep.
So it's happening, guys. I'm gonna try to like limit myself to like Steve, Eddie, and Robin.
I feel like that's good.
There's like a couple L ones that I really want, like and Max. That I'm gonna be like, it's gonna be a slippery slope.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's fun. Anything else?
That's all I can think of for the moment.
Yeah, just a reminder, if you're listening to this, that if you would like to have us talk about something of your product, art, or anything like that, you can book a advertising slot by contacting us. You can email us or contact us just by DM on Instagram. And my email, steadystories@gmail.com, is like linked on our Instagram account too. So I think that's pretty much it for today.
I think we're good.
Yeah, that was super fun as always. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody is excited about our announcement today. I know we are. So stay tuned for more about that. And we will keep you updated on everything that, comes down the line with Stranger Things.
All right, guys. Well, happy summer break to Meghan and I, and over and out.
Over and out.
Eddie, I'm not sure I love the idea of you driving.
Well, I'm starting to suck her. Harrington's got her. Don't you, big boy?
And we are back.
Back.
Welcome to our secret study segment where we talk about all things fan fiction and study, just so that not everybody has to listen. But if you're here to listen to us talk about study, welcome back. Glad to have you, as always. What have you been reading this week, Stacy?
So I finished 2 stories,
Ooh.
one of which was from Onion Chiver. It was Touched, which ended up being an alpha, omega, beta story. Usually I am not into those stories. No offense to people who are, it's just not really my thing. But I was like, I'm almost done it. I need to finish it. And I had began reading that months and months ago. And I did finish it, and it was absolutely beautiful, as usual, with the rest of their work. Really loved the ending and the sense of community and family that they made. But the story that really stuck out to me was The Beat Has Just Begun by Forget the Moon. And it takes place after the events of season 4 and how Steve feels really guilty over what happened. And he goes to wash up the night after everything has happened. And he goes into his bathroom where he sees Eddie Munson in his mirror. He is trapped in the Upside Down, but he can see him through the mirror. And anytime Steve leaves something in the bathroom, Eddie can have access to it, because at first he can't hear him. So he thinks of the walkie and he puts the walkie down, and that's how they're able to communicate. And it's a bit of a slow burn of how the hell did Eddie end up there and survive, because they all saw him die, to how do they get him out? And it's Steve slowly realizing that he actually has feelings for Eddie and how attached he is to him. So it was an offbeat story, but I really loved it. It was about 12 chapters, but it went by very quick.
Oh, nice. That sounds cool. Yeah, I mean, eventually I want to read everything that Onion Chiver has ever written. So definitely want to check that out. I have a few of their stories that I'd like to get to soon. But
what have you been reading?
I read the story that you recommended for the second time last week that you had sent me a long time ago, June 27th, 1993.
What did you think?
It was so good. It was really, really good. Just like you said, like perfect, like Pride rec, because it's like at a Pride parade, San Francisco, but just the way that it wove together, like the past and the present, and like for a while, you know, Steve's just like standing there looking at the guy across the street and trying to figure out if it's really Eddie. And then it keeps cutting back to like how things unfolded and how they got to like the present day. So it's a one shot. It's like pretty quick, but it's got like a lot of like lore to that story and a lot of like backstory. And I liked it was Joyce and Karen had kind of like gotten together, which was nice. Yeah. So that was great. And I really liked that author, Rixie Gray, maybe?
Sounds good.
And it looks like they have a bunch of Stranger Things fics. I like downloaded just another little one shot of like a rewrite of like the boathouse scene. And I didn't finish it. I just like downloaded it, but like I definitely want to check out more of their stuff because
they are very talented, and I can't wait to read more. Which, in fact, not to cut you off with anything else you've been reading, but you have a bit of a mission. I'm putting you on a mission.
I do, huh?
So in a few weeks, I'm going to be driving out to Philly to see Brandy and Meghan, and we are going to be seeing A Quiet Place Day 1, which the advertisements and the promotional things that they're doing for this movie, it's on fleek. But I'm going to be making a 6-hour drive. So I'm going to need a list of podfics that you can recommend, because nothing makes a trip go by faster than listening to Stranger Things podfics. So you're going to have to put on the old memory cap and try to think of some really good ones.
Yeah, I'm going to find you some good ones. Maybe find you some new ones that are out. But yeah, I know I can definitely do that for you.
You're the best.
Don't worry. That 6-hour drive is going to fly by. Yeah, hopefully now that summer break has started officially when you're hearing this, we will both have more time to Read.
I'm going to get nothing accomplished this summer. People are starting gardens and projects and home improvement things. Just going to be reading smut, guys.
No, we're going to be like doing lots of stuff for our Patreon. So we have lots of ideas.
Hashtag Summer of Skull Rock. Come on, people.
Yes. Hashtag. Let's make that a thing.
We're making that a thing. Summer of Skull Rock.
All right. So you heard it here first. Hashtag Summer of Skull Rock has officially begun. Woohoo! All right. We'll talk to you next week.
Over and out.
Over and out.